Okay, let's move on to something that happened this year. The Covington Cross High School students in Washington, D.C. So students from a Catholic high school in Kentucky, Covington High, were visiting Washington, D.C. And this included a young man, 16 years old, by the name of Nicholas Sandman. Some of them, these students, were wearing MAGA hats, which they had just purchased at some store down the road. They were attending a March for Life event while they were on a trip to D.C. from their high school, a March for Life rally. They were in the National Mall, somewhere near the Lincoln Memorial. While they were waiting for a bus, a group of Black Hebrew Israelites, which is a religious group who are often violent, began to verbally assault them while they were standing there in their MAGA hats, calling them racist, bigots, white crackers, faggots, and incest kids. Right at them. Also taunting a African-American student who was among them, telling him they would harvest his organs. This was all caught on tape, by the way, folks, video. Soon after, a group of Native Americans led by activist Nathan Phillips, also known to be kind of a butt monkey, decided to join in the bullying and move towards the students. While he's banging on his drum and chanting, he gets right into Nicholas Sandman's face. Nicholas Sandman did nothing. He stood his ground and smiled. He didn't back away, but he didn't do anything provocative. He didn't provoke them in any way. He didn't incite any violence, and he didn't say one word. Not one word. The rush to judgment started immediately. The left, specifically CNN, told false versions of the story, trying to insinuate that it was the students that provoked both the Black Hebrew Israelites and the Native Americans by going towards them and calling out things towards them. Of course, proof later showed that Sandman Sandman called for his fellow students not to provoke anyone and not to say anything. As his lawyer says, he was the only adult in the whole situation. The mainstream media misled by only showing part of the video that we now know to be exculpatory in a attempt to show to change the narrative to blame the kids, to make their false claims of the kids being guilty in this more plausible. So they edited the video, what they put out in the airwaves. CNN has been hit now with a $275 million lawsuit for defamation. The left has decided that a hat is enough proof of racism and can trigger hurtful feelings all by itself. Just a hat. Alyssa Milano, Bill Maher, Jim Carrey are also likely to be sued for their outbursts about this incident that were proven to be false. Now let's move on to the reason I'm writing this somewhat. Second to last reason, the penultimate reason. And that is the most current case of Jussie Smollett. A clear case of rushing to judgment where the forces of karma have swooped around in a boomerang fashion to smack the left upside the head quickly as quickly as any have. Just last month, or actually the very end of January, I should say, actor Jussie Smollett, who starred, past tense now, on the episode of Empire, or the TV show Empire. A man who is a known and outspoken Trump hater, filed a police report on January 30th claiming two masked men approached him, making homophobic remarks and slurs at him, that hit him in the face, poured a mysterious chemical substance on him, and looped a rope around his neck. In Chicago, where he lives, I guess. TMZ immediately reported the assailants also yelled, "MAGA country!" at him as they left the scene. 2 days later, after leaving the hospital, Smollett publicly condemned the attack on himself. President Trump, commented that the incident was horrible, and it doesn't get any worse. In other words, he injected himself like Obama in a way where he probably shouldn't have said anything because he didn't know. But he was at least saying that if true, and it was a hate crime, and no one had any reason to disbelieve Jussie Smollett, even though he was a Trump hater, a supposedly intelligent, gay actor who living in Chicago, minding his own business, getting attacked, that's a horrible thing. And, everyone would say the same thing. Just about everybody. No place for that shit. Pardon my French. But on February 11th, police call Smollett's phone records limited and redacted, and didn't have enough information with them to go where they needed it to take them. 2 days later, on the 13th, two suspects are detained for questioning. On the 14th, Smollett gives the first TV interview on Good Morning America and tells Robin Roberts how pissed off he was that there are people out there doubting his story. On 2/15, the suspects were released without charges. Uh-oh. Now, a guy like Smollett would be perfectly fine letting these two guys rot in jail for this crime. A day later, on the 16th, the investigation, according to police, has shifted. On the 20th, Smollett is criminally charged with filing a false police report, and he turns himself in the next day. Hello! On the 22nd, Smollett's character is written off the show. You're gone. Not because everybody on Empire wasn't on his side. Not because they didn't love and adore this guy. Not because they weren't all friends. Not because they didn't believe in all the hate Trump crap that he spews out on a regular basis. Because they didn't want to get caught up in it. They were protecting their butts. You're gone. The rush to judgment came hard and fast, folks. It turns out the two brothers. Now, everything I say from here on, unlike the other stories, is alleged. Simply because this case is still in the courts and hasn't been gotten through the investigation, maybe not even into the courts yet. So nothing I say from here forward is fact yet. Only suspicion. But it falls right into the same stuff that the rest of this crap was falling into. And it shows the same signs of a rush to judgment that the rest of them did. It turns out that allegedly two brothers, Ola and Abel what is their name? Osundairo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Actually, I don't care. Guys from Nigeria were paid by somebody, Smollett, perhaps, $3,500 before they left Nigeria to come here. And we're going to get $500 when they returned to perpetrate this hate crime on Smollett at his bequest. Smollett was eventually charged with 16 felonies, folks. 16! He might have also sent himself a letter, a fake threatening letter, which he gave to Fox News in Chicago during this time before he was accused, to also pile on this sudden burst of hate. He seemed to go over the top. It's like every possible way this guy could be hated on. The Trump thing with the MAGA country, the noose, the chemical substance, the literally violently hitting him, and then a threatening letter. It's like everything he could think of that somebody might do, that all happened to him at one time. Usually it's one or two, but not 4 or 5 different types of things all at one time. He overdid it. He overplayed his role, you might say. He overacted. Soon to be irrelevant celebrity Ellen Page has this emotional tirade, you might recall, on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, blaming Vice President Mike Pence for the incident by a scientific method that she calls connecting the dots. Senator Kamala Harris wants to be president, called the incident a modern-day lynching. Rosie O'Donnell tweeted a middle finger emoji stating to that, or throwing this emoji out to the MAGA a-holes, meaning Trump supporters. F you, Trump supporters. Rob Reiner, a notorious Trump hater, tried to blame Trump for the incident in a tweet of his own. Cher also tweeted some incoherent rant in almost all caps, blaming Trump for it as well. And on, and on, and on, and on. Pile, 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 pile. Will we ever get apologies from these people when it turns out, as it probably will, that Smollett is guilty of all this? That he manufactured the whole incident to make it look like Trump haters went after him to try to prove a point that was otherwise unprovable because it was too few incidents of real hate crimes occurring that he had to make one up? Or, as we now say, the need for bigotry in America far greatly exceeds, or the demand for bigotry in America greatly exceeds its supply? Which leads us, don't hold your breath for those apologies from the left. They haven't done it before. Why would they do it now? Which leads us to a final comment about what could be considered the greatest rush to judgment of all time, which coincides with the greatest scandal in American history. As I said many videos ago, that we are about to experience, and the facts are about to come out, about one of the most heinous scandals possibly in the history of the United States. And we are just now finding out that we weren't far wrong from that assessment. In order to prevent candidate Donald Trump from making it to the presidency, a number of people in the deep state, Department of Justice and FBI, along with a lawyer's office and a opposition research firm, and along with the DNC and Hillary Clinton, conspired together to make it appear as if Donald Trump was guilty of some heinous activities and collusion with Russia. And a fake dossier was created to prove the point. A dossier which was leaked to the press and was given to a FISA court, a secret court that is used only in trying to give the okay to spy on Americans, which is otherwise illegal to do so. In this case, a member of Donald Trump's campaign, using allegations that were unproven, unverified, unsubstantiated, and they went ahead with it anyway. They exonerated Hillary Clinton on purpose during a lousy interview that didn't interview anybody and basically gave immunity to everybody. While at the same time, the same group of people jumped from that onto an investigation of Russia collusion. And somehow, through leaks and other things, found that Donald Trump absolutely must have, and the media said it, and the politicians said it, and the circus that is known as our pop culture today, all saying he must have been colluding with Russia. By the way, collusion is not a crime. And then, of course, the impeachment calls for impeachment, which, as we've stated multiple times, you cannot be impeached for something you didn't do while you're in office. And collusion is not an impeachable offense. It doesn't rise to a high crime or misdemeanor. But none of this seems to matter. Blah, blah, blah. Impeachment. All the while, it turns out that this was a coordinated effort, or a soft coup, you might say, to unseat or to derail a campaign and then later unseat the efficacy of a president of the United States, to destroy the ability of him to operate and to unseat him, to take him out, to impeach him, whatnot. And it's all a bag of lies. And it's done by Obama appointee holdovers, Obama's attorney general. Obama must have known about it himself. Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and the top-ranking officials at both the FBI and the DOJ. When this thing finally explodes and comes to rest and all the facts are known, it is going to be the worst thing ever. And the people in the media, the culture, the celebrities, academia, politicians who spent 2+ years of time, money, energy, effort, passion, excoriating everything Donald Trump, are finally going to eat the biggest plate of crow they ever ate. None of them will apologize per se. None of them will take it all back and say, oops, we were wrong. Trump's a good guy. They hate the man. And that derangement syndrome led them right down the path to hell. One of the greatest ironies of this thing is that the media, the mainstream media, so desperately needed this to be true that they basically have ignored the greatest scandal in American history, and their ratings have dropped precipitously. CNNs are now less than MSNBC, which is a clown show all by itself, because of their hatred for Trump. In a normal time, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the major news networks would be all over this scandal and all over this deep state soft coup and would be raking it in. But they couldn't go down that path because, as I say, they boxed themselves into a corner, hating Trump and ignoring truth. And now they're so far down the ratings thing that, all of them are made to look clownish. And every celebrity that came out, and every politician, and every academe, every musician, the whole culture is going to find out that Trump is not this boogeyman that they made him out to be. He's not perfect. He's got his problems. He does things that drive people crazy, the end of the day, he does what he said. He says what he does. He's unapologetic. He's exactly what we needed in exactly the right time. He's a harm to no one. He's actually made some pretty good improvements that in an objective view would not have gone unnoticed, and still maintains relatively high approval ratings despite 92% of news being against him on a regular daily basis. What if it were just the normal amount of negative news that most Republican presidents get? How high would his approval rating be then? This is all about Trump. This is about a culture that jumps to conclusions because it serves a narrative and then doesn't bother to take anything back or apologize. They just ignore it and pretend that they were never talking about it in the first place. And these things have gotten worse and worse and worse during the time of Trump, simply because they're trying to prove something that is not provable. That because of Trump, somehow the culture is more racist, more misogynist, more homophobic, more Islamophobic, more bigoted, blah, 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 blah. And we're not. We're just not. So they have to lie to pretend that it is, so that they don't look like the donkeys that they truly are. Next time anyone decides to rush to judgment, notice they never learn from this. They keep falling into the same trap over and over and over again. Every single time something comes up that's too juicy to ignore, boom, right back on it. So, for those of us on the right, when we see the rush to judgment, pull back the reins, folks. Wait for it. Wait for it. Because inevitably that boomerang is going to smack them right back in the head. And we're going to sit back and laugh our asses off. See you on the next one.